Walking in faith invites us to see life through an eternal lens, beyond the temporary pleasures and struggles of this world. Fame focuses on the here and now, the applause of today, the recognition of the moment, but faith calls us to look beyond the immediate and invest in what lasts forever. When we embrace an eternal perspective, we understand that the challenges we face and the sacrifices we make are not in vain, but are part of a greater story that extends beyond our earthly existence. An eternal perspective helps us endure hardships with hope and patience. When we remember that life on earth is temporary, it becomes easier to bear trials and setbacks. We begin to see suffering not as meaningless pain, but as a refining process that prepares us for a future glory far greater than anything we can imagine. This mindset encourages us to keep our eyes on what truly matters and not be swayed by the fleeting approval or rejection of the world. Moreover, an eternal perspective shapes the way we live daily. It reminds us to prioritize values like love, kindness, and faithfulness over success and recognition. When we live knowing that our actions have eternal significance, we become more intentional in how we treat others, how we use our gifts, and how we serve. This focus shifts our motivation from pleasing people to honoring God, which brings deep peace and fulfillment. The eternal perspective also gives us courage to resist the temptation of fame and the distractions of worldly desires. It encourages us to say no to shortcuts and compromises that might gain us temporary attention but cost us our integrity or spiritual well-being. Faith rooted in eternity empowers us to stand firm, knowing that true reward comes from God and that lasting joy is found in His presence. Finally, living with an eternal perspective inspires hope in the face of death and the unknown. It assures us that this life is not the end, but a doorway to something far greater. This hope transforms how we view ourselves, our purpose, and our relationships. It invites us to walk by faith every day, confident that our journey leads to an everlasting peace and joy beyond any fame this world can offer. Throughout history, some of the greatest leaders and heroes have not sought fame or applause. Instead, they were driven by a deep faith and commitment to a higher calling. These faithful leaders understood that their purpose was not to accumulate worldly recognition, but to serve faithfully, often in quiet and unseen ways. Their legacies endure not because of fleeting popularity, but because they built their lives on principles rooted in faith and obedience. Faithful leaders are characterized by their unwavering dedication to truth, even when it is costly. They stand firm in their beliefs despite opposition or rejection. Their courage comes from knowing that their ultimate reward is not human praise, but the approval of God. This conviction gives them the strength to persevere through hardships and setbacks that might have discouraged others. Their example teaches us that true leadership is about faithfulness, not fame. Many of these leaders worked behind the scenes, influencing others through their character and steadfastness rather than public acclaim. They invested in people, mentored the next generation, and sowed seeds that would bear fruit long after their time. Their impact is measured not in headlines, but in lives transformed, communities uplifted, and values preserved. This kind of legacy is far more meaningful and lasting than any fleeting moment in the spotlight. The stories of faithful leaders also remind us that leadership is a calling, not a status. It is about responsibility and service, not ego or recognition. Walking in faith means embracing this calling with humility and trust, knowing that our work may go unnoticed by the world, but is precious in the eyes of God. Their example encourages us to focus on the eternal significance of our actions rather than temporary applause. Finally, the legacy of faithful leaders challenges us to evaluate our own lives. Are we seeking to build a name for ourselves, or are we committed to living with integrity and faithfulness? The greatest leaders leave behind a heritage that inspires others to walk in faith, not fame. A legacy that stands the test of time and points others to something far greater than ourselves. Walking in faith calls us to live a life marked by integrity and humility. In a world where shortcuts and compromises are often rewarded, faith invites us to stand firm on what is right, even when it is difficult or unpopular. Integrity means being truthful, honest, and consistent in our actions and words, regardless of who is watching. It is the foundation of a life that honors God and builds trust with others. Without integrity, any success or recognition we gain is hollow and temporary. Humility goes hand in hand with integrity. It reminds us that we are not the center of the universe, and that our gifts and achievements are not solely by our own doing. Walking in humility means acknowledging our dependence on God's grace and recognizing the value in others. It is a posture of the heart that chooses service over self-promotion, listening over boasting, and compassion over judgment. When we humble ourselves, we open the door for God to work through us in powerful and meaningful ways. Choosing integrity and humility often means resisting the temptation to seek popularity or applause. The world praises those who are loud and boastful, but faith teaches us that true greatness is found in quiet obedience and sincere love. This kind of character is not built overnight. It is shaped by daily choices to do what is right, even when it goes unnoticed or unrewarded. It is in these moments that our faith is tested and strengthened. Moreover, integrity and humility create a strong witness to those around us. In a culture hungry for authenticity, living transparently and humbly shines a light that draws others to the truth. Our consistent example encourages others to seek a life of faith and builds a community rooted in trust and love. This witness often has a far greater impact than any spoken words or public recognition. Finally, living with integrity and humility aligns us with the example of the greatest leader we can follow. This path may not bring fame or fortune, but it brings peace of conscience and the assurance that we are walking in the will of God. It is a path that honors God above all else and leads to a legacy that truly matters. Walking in faith means standing strong even when the path is shadowed by uncertainty and trials. There are moments in life when the cheers fade, the crowds disperse, and we find ourselves alone with our doubts and fears. It is during these dark seasons that faith proves its true worth. While fame shines brightly for a moment, it offers no comfort when the night grows long. Faith, however, is a steady flame that burns within, lighting our way when all else is dim. Endurance in the dark requires a deep trust that unseen hands are guiding us, even when we cannot feel their touch. It is easy to believe in God's presence when life is full of blessings and praise, but faith matures and strengthens when we choose to trust in the quiet, when the answers don't come, and when the world seems to have forgotten us. This endurance is not a passive waiting, but an active holding on to the promises of God, knowing that every trial has a purpose and every night is followed by dawn. The dark times test our character and reveal the depth of our commitment. It is easy to be faithful in the light, but true faith shines brightest when tested by adversity. When the applause has stopped and no one is watching, our faith calls us to continue walking, believing that God is working even in ways we cannot see. These are the moments when faith becomes a lifeline, sustaining us through pain, loss, and confusion. Endurance in faith also shapes our perspective on suffering. Instead of seeing hardship as meaningless or punishment, faith teaches us to view challenges as opportunities for growth and refinement. Like gold purified by fire, our spirits are strengthened through the struggles we endure. This understanding transforms our suffering from a source of despair into a wellspring of hope and resilience. Finally, walking in faith through dark times prepares us to encourage others who face similar struggles. Our endurance becomes a testimony, a light for those lost in their own night. When we hold fast to faith despite the darkness, we demonstrate that hope is real, that God's presence is unchanging, and that no shadow can overcome the power of trust in Him. True fulfillment in life is not found in the applause of the crowd or the fleeting moments when our names are celebrated. So many chase after fame, believing it will bring them happiness, security, and meaning, yet fame is often like a mirage in the desert. It looks beautiful from afar, but the closer you get, the more it fades away, leaving emptiness behind. Real fulfillment comes from something much deeper and steadier: faith. Faith anchors our souls in the eternal and the unchanging, while fame depends on the approval of others, which is always uncertain and temporary. Faith calls us to place our trust in a divine plan that is greater than our own desires for recognition. It invites us to believe that our worth does not depend on how many people know our name or applaud our achievements, but on the love and purpose given to us by God. When we walk by faith, we are no longer controlled by the need for external validation. Instead, we find peace in knowing that we are seen and valued by the one who created us. This kind of faith frees us from the exhausting and often hollow pursuit of fame. Moreover, faith encourages us to live with an eternal perspective. Fame focuses on the here and now, the spotlight today, the headline tomorrow. But faith looks beyond the present moment to what truly lasts. It reminds us that no matter how many people celebrate us now, those celebrations will eventually pass. Only the legacy of a faithful life, lived with integrity and love, stands the test of time. When we walk in faith, we invest in something far greater than worldly fame, a legacy that touches lives beyond our own and endures forever. Choosing faith over fame also means embracing humility. It means being willing to serve quietly, to work diligently without recognition, and to love without expecting applause. The world often prizes those who shout the loudest or seek the most attention. But faith teaches us that true greatness is found in humble service. It is in these quiet acts of obedience and love that we reflect the heart of God and live out our true purpose. Finally, faith over fame protects us from the emptiness and disappointment that come when the crowd turns away. Popularity can be fickle. It can change with the wind or the next trending story. But faith provides a constant source of hope and strength. It encourages us to keep moving forward, trusting that our value is not determined by the number of followers or likes, but by the unshakable foundation of God's love and purpose in our lives. Today I want to speak to you about a path that too often gets overlooked in the pursuit of worldly success, the path of walking in faith, not fame. In a world obsessed with recognition, applause, and the fleeting glow of popularity, the call to walk by faith stands as a quiet, powerful invitation to a life rooted in something far deeper and more enduring. Faith is not about the spotlight, it's about trust. Trusting in a power greater than ourselves, a divine guide who leads us even when the road is dark and uncertain. Fame can fade, but faith sustains us through every storm. It strengthens our hearts when the crowds have gone silent and reminds us that our worth is not measured by accolades, but by the steadfastness of our spirit. Walking in faith means living with courage and conviction, even when no one is watching. It means making choices that honor truth and integrity over popularity. It means serving others quietly without expectation of reward, and trusting that every small step taken in faith moves us closer to our true purpose. Remember, many of the greatest heroes of history walked in faith, not fame. They were not driven by applause, but by obedience to a calling. And their legacy endures because it was built on something eternal, not temporary. So today, I urge you to examine your heart. Are you seeking the approval of the world, or are you walking by faith, steadfast, humble, and focused on what truly matters? The journey of faith may be less traveled and less celebrated, but it is the path that leads to real peace, joy, and eternal reward.